Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. So what time are we right at it? Okay, we're 7 o'clock. We'll get Tim to come up. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We're right at 7 o'clock, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I keep hearing my voice over here. It's a distraction. So I want to begin by welcoming everybody. It's our first in-person meeting since March or February of 2020. So I want to thank everybody coming out. This is a new environment for us. We're doing streaming. We're doing YouTube, Zoom. I listening to myself. And you kind folks are here with us in person tonight. So I want to welcome everybody here. The first item tonight that when we call the meeting to order, I'm the chair, John Davey, vice chair, Tim White, vice chair, John Reslier. I don't see Brooke, Brooke's actually she's virtual. So Brooke is here and she's online, our secretary. So we're gonna go ahead and adopt our meeting agenda if there are no objections. It's not complicated. So when we adopt the agenda, I wanted to go ahead and run through a few things tonight, since this is our first in-person meeting in over a year, and there are a lot of people who have never been to an APAC meeting. So I just wanted to go through real quick. We do provide opportunity for public comment. We do public comment when we open the meeting for matters that are not on the agenda. So if you have something you want to ask or make a comment about that's not one of our project topics tonight, we'll provide that to you shortly. So that's just for items that aren't on the agenda. We expect to extend courtesy to all the attendees here from the community, as well as to our speaking guests and to project applicants that are here. When the opportunity arises for public comment and questions from the community begins for the project, we ask that everyone come forward to use the microphone that's up here, because if you don't, then it doesn't get out to our virtual attendees. If we get desperate, if somebody has a problem with getting the microphone, we can grab one of these and bring it out to you, and you could speak into it like a walkie-talkie. So we do limit our comments to about 3 minutes. There's a lot of people here tonight. There's a lot of people online. So if we don't limit the comments, we have this room till 9. So we want to first, we also want to extend our thanks to the fire department for providing this room for us. And for Mike for his extra work tonight, but he's always doing extra work. So if you can, you do public comments, you want to keep focused and short. Maybe 1 or 2 questions. We don't want to go question after question after question. You're going to run over your 3 minutes. So if your question has already been asked, if you have another question, go to the other question, because we want to make sure that we get as much answered as we can. And you know, courtesy is expected for everyone. It's courtesy to you and courtesy to our guests and the project applicants. So we ask when somebody is replying or speaking, we don't interrupt. We can do a follow-up question as long as we keep it short. So the idea with APAC is founded in 1981. We're 40 years old this year. It's all volunteers. It's all community volunteers. APAC officers are elected by voting members. Voting members, you become a voting member by working on a project, whether you're doing a review of an EIR or simple reviews that we do for various projects that are showing up. That's how you become a voting member. And once you're in, we have our clause and you can never leave. So, but it is a lot of volunteer, it's a lot of work. And none of us knew how to do the work when we started, but the people ahead of us showed us how to. And it's conceivable, if you want to come and help, you might educate us. So we appreciate anybody who wants to participate. So we strive to make sure that our discussions are civil, and that we know that development projects can be controversial for people maybe who support a project, or people that are opposed to a project or want to see changes. It's human nature to be motivated by emotion, but in our experience in 40 years, when we have too much emotion in our conversations, the decision makers tune us out. So keep that in mind. Emotion will come into it, but try to keep it based in fact, or just asking questions. The more we ask, the better answers we get, the better the projects turn out. So APAC is not focused on supporting projects, denying projects. We're just here to hear what they are and provide our volunteer feedback from the community and from our people working on the projects to what we see as maybe our challenges or questions or things that maybe could be changed that might make for a better project for our community, for the applicants, and for the county. So with that, we're never working towards advocacy for or against to support or deny a project. We're just hearing the project. And with that, I think I'll just close it out by saying, we welcome everybody in the community back. We're happy to have you here. We're glad to see you. And just remind you, your participation is valuable. So that was a lot from me. Sorry about that. So with that, this is the opportunity for public comment. I don't think that microphone's on. If anybody has public comment on anything that is not on our agenda, which are the two projects we're talking about tonight, you have an opportunity. You want 3 minutes, go. But we'll answer as best we can. There are things we don't know, and we can turn to people who might, whether it's somebody in the county, in the planning department, our supervisor, anybody at the county who could help us out, or a project applicant. So if there's any questions, you're making it too easy. So we begin every meeting. We have an opportunity to hear from our District 1 Supervisor, John Heidel, and he's going to provide some supervisor comments. And John, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, John. Wow, this is loud. Okay.
Step back.
Step back.
Okay.
You gotta turn that down. Stand in the back of the room almost. That's a little bit better. Thank you. So I just want to be brief. There were 3 things that the Board of Supervisors passed yesterday that I think APAC in particular and the community would be interested in. The first one I'll recognize or mention is the Montano de Oro project. And I know that APAC was very involved with reviewing that early on, providing comments back to Vinyl Perkins. APAC really helped shape that project to be what it was. There was a lot of concessions made by the developer to respect the desires of our planning commission, APAC, et cetera. And so I'm pleased to announce that that was passed 5-0 in support of the Montano de Oro project. This is their phase 2. They've already got the phase 1 in existence. And so there was a lot of modifications made to make it as community compliant and consistent as it could. There's still questions about noise generation from their outdoor venues and stuff, but there's a plan as to how to address that. So that was the first of the decisions, and I appreciated APAC's inputs, and they did comment specifically the benefits of having APAC's review of that project and collecting community interests. So very, very helpful. The second one I'll mention was a little more controversial, and this was the Carson Creek Heritage. This is the project that's outside the business park, but it's on the lower part of the business park area. It's part of Carson Creek specific plan. And it was a proposal by Lennar and AKT basically to develop an additional 409 age-restricted units down in that area, immediately adjacent to the other heritage community. The heritage community to the north includes the park, which I know has been very controversial with the lights, et cetera. And that was brought up in the meeting. But that passed 4-1 with the concession, a couple of concessions the developer made. One was that they will not pursue, per this agreement, reimbursement of the Carson Creek or Carson Crossing roadway, which there was an investment fronted by the developer. I think it was $6.7 million. And so with this agreement, at least they've given up the opportunity to pursue it with this agreement. Now there's previous agreements in place, the CIP, et cetera, that's a different issue, but that was taken out of the development agreement. And so I thought that was a very favorable concession as well. When the Planning Commission reviewed it, they voted against it. They voted denial, and there were 4 major reasons. All of those 4 reasons were addressed. All of those had some level of mitigation. And I think the end result was that project is probably as good as it can be for an age-restricted community in that particular locale. So 4-1, Supervisor Turnbull voted against it. All the other board members voted for it. And then the third one of interest is there was a proposal brought forward to the board about creating a temporary homeless sheltering facility. And it came from the recommendations of a community resident. I think Liz lives in Placerville, right? Liz Drummond. And so she came up with this plan as to how you would create essentially a homeless encampment immediately adjacent to our county jail. So it'd be in Placerville. It's on county property.
The idea is it would be all fenced in. It's going to be controlled, but there'll be access via card entry, card removal, so they can keep track of when the homeless people are coming and when they're going. They have freedom of reign in and out, but they're tracked in terms of that card. But that would be a way of basically minimizing the fire dangers and risks in the Placerville area in particular, because I think those of us who read the newspaper recognize there was a recent fire up there. It was been attributed to a homeless camp. I think it burned like 2.3 acres, but thank goodness the fire department got on top of it. It could have been much, much worse. So that fire threat was one of the things that basically promoted this plan, this concept. The other part of it is whenever you have homeless, you have a lot of trash, you have environmental waste considerations. They have no toilets, they have no disposal containers, no trash bins, etc. By providing this facility adjacent to the jail, all of those will be available. So it does allow then the city in particular to go through, and where homeless are not willing to move off a piece of property, they can take them to this facility. So there's a level of control involved with it. The good news for me, from my perspective, is the sheriff has agreed to manage the operation, at least initially. So he's fully vested in it. His HOT team, homeless outreach team, is very invested in it. They want to do all the right things. That combined with our county health and human services division, our environmental management division, the city of Placerville's support, nonprofit support, we hope to make this essentially the precursor to a navigation center where we can start determining what are the needs of the homeless, those that have mental illness, get them into a program for diagnostics, determination of what can be done. Those who have substance abuse can hopefully be directed to a rehab facility. So this is the first major event that's happened in El Dorado County to try to focus on the homeless situation and make it better for the homeless and the residents who live in the Placerville area and other areas. So it was reported by the sheriff that approximately 93 individuals are in this encampment homeless category. And of that, 65 reside within the boundaries of the city of Placerville. And the other 30 something basically reside in the rest of El Dorado County, which include Cameron Park, Jingle Springs, various areas of El Dorado Hills, although minimal, all those kinds of things. So this, I think, is a major step forward. The board approved conceptually to move forward with this. And the idea is we would be using the federal ARPA funding, at least initially, which we've been authorized $17.5 million to do that. And so the board would probably have to consider a special allocation. The sheriff had estimated it takes $1.8 million to set this up and get it running. So more to come on all that, but the board unanimously approved conceptually this approach, and we'll see how it develops. But the need is immediate, and so it's kind of a ASAP, how do we get this done? And particularly look at winter sheltering. But we're talking about tents in a confined area with a fence around it. We're not talking about tough sheds or nice accommodation. It's a temporary type of facility, but it gets us started towards that effort. And then with our El Dorado Opportunity Knox, continuum of care funding and other things, that will build a navigation center and really provide that transition from homelessness back into productive life, hopefully. So those were the three major events. I probably took longer than I should, but I wanted to give you enough information to kind of get the gist of it. But thank you for the opportunity.
Are there any questions for John about any of the items that he brought up tonight?
I have a question. You mentioned Carson Crossing and some kind of an agreement with the developer. What does that entail?
I don't know all the details. I do know that when Carson Crossing was put in, the developer fronted the money, Lennar. My understanding that cost was like $6.7 million. It was part of the CIP, our capital improvement program at the county. So there is a intent for that money, for that improvement to be reimbursed over time. But to my knowledge, that reimbursement agreement was never set with the county. So there was an intent, it wasn't solidified. And so that has to still be discussed and determined how, if any of that reimbursement is going to happen. So as was done with Saratoga Way, there was a reimbursement agreement for the money fronted to push Saratoga Way through and make it 4 lanes. In the area, it's 4 lanes. And obviously the 2 lanes were there for most of the part that beyond Wilson, on this side of Wilson. But those are common things that happen. If it's part of our capital improvement program, it means we're supposed to be collecting traffic impact fees to pay for those improvements. But the history of El Dorado County is a lot of times the only way those improvements get made is by a developer fronting the money with the promise to reimburse, or at least an intent to reimburse. And so we have a series of these going on, but that's kind of the history of the way El Dorado County's done things. And
Oh, it's an intent to give this money.
there was never a reimbursement agreement solidified and signed off, as I understand it. There's a claim, but that's
Okay.
never been, processed or resolved. So it's still a
Thank you,
matter
John.
of question, but for at least this next approval, they don't have the right to claim because of that development. It's associated with that reimbursement. So it keeps it separate from that. So, yep. All right. Well, thank you.
Excuse me, guys, I'm doing some driving here while we're jumping onto here. Okay. There we go. So we're back on the screen now. So the next item tonight, as I move forward, is our guest speaker. Well, we don't have guest speakers, but we do have two projects. And the first project that we're going to talk about is the Town and Country Village, El Dorado. They have their pre-application in for this project, and Josh Panay is here. Josh, the file is loading real slow. Yeah, so it's the pre-app. Let me stop this, and I'm going to give you this controller here in a second. Let me stop this and go to, sorry, I'm just jumping around while we're talking. Is the pre-application sufficient to start with that you have on file with the county? The one, okay.
That's the, you have that link?
I have it live right now.
That may be better.
Okay, and where would you, let's see, you know, it might be easier just for me to do this for you. But where do you want to start? I'm gonna go ahead and.
I test. Oh, this is the mic for,
Yeah, it's for the
for
Zoom,
Zoom.
so but
Okay.
the room will hear. Let me get it on the screen here for you. And but if you want to introduce yourself and start describing the project.
Well,
I'll get ready
welcome.
for you.
I'm Josh Panay. I'm with the Mahana family. The Mahana family has been in the hills for the last 50 years. The family is a hospitality family. They have the Capitol ballrooms downtown. They do everything from weddings to dinners to a variety of events downtown. The families grew up here and still has these properties that we're going to talk about on Bass Lake Road and Highway 50. What we did was we submitted a J6 application to the County Board of Supervisors. That's what's up on the board now. Let's go back to the, okay, the first piece, and you can get a link to this whole application. And the J6 application is the preliminary application before we file a full application with the county. It gives us an opportunity, like tonight and two other APAC meetings that we've had regarding public input. So we've taken some of the previous public input and done this application. So this is the pre-application. Perhaps it'll get to the board by October. So now all the different agencies will look at it. People will have an opportunity to comment. And so that's the stage we're at. What John is showing here is on the screen, there are a variety of things that we've listed that comport this project with the county and with the general plan of the county. One of the issues is this idea that we should do infill development rather than hopping all the way down past the development that is on Highway 50. Highway 50 is about 80,000 cars a day. And in that, we have properties on right on Highway 50. So let's go and we'll show the actual location so you know where the Mahana's property is. This is the vicinity map. Some of these are just required by the county. So if you take a look, Bass Lake Road, as you go up Bass Lake Road and Highway 50. So it's that 80 acres right there, right on the corner. Good planning process is to look for where the densest part of the traffic is, and that's where you put your village center. The specific plan, the whole of this plan, let's go to the next slide, John, and we can show.
That's a better look at where it's at.
Yeah, this gives you a specific idea. The specific plan has all been planned out for residential dwellings. So over time, that'll all be developed. There was never a village center for this whole plan. So what we've done is designed a village center. This gives the specific zoning on that property. That's a requirement of the county. Why don't you go to the next one and we'll, thank you.
That's the specific plan.
Yeah, here's the 1995 specific plan. So it shows all the zoning and how housing is going to be built in this specific plan. But what was lacking and missing in the specific plan, the Bass Lake Hills specific plan, was an idea of a village center for the whole of the specific plan. And we believe for Serrano and for Cameron Park, because this sits right in the middle. And ideally, it sits right in the middle of 4 churches. So the village center and what I'm going to describe as the hotels, the resort, and the conferencing wedding center, I'll show you in a minute. But this gives you kind of the specific plan, what was. This is our plan, and maybe I'll just step right over so people can see it. This is the proposed plan just on the acreage. There's a proposed park that the Community Service District has here, another proposed park that's with the potential of the church, and they're still working that out. And then this piece is our proposed amendment to the specific plan. Ideally, what you want in good planning is at the densest piece of the traffic, you want your densest development. So that's what we're proposing in this. Here would be our resort, hotels, and conferencing and wedding center. I'll show you a rendering of that in a minute. This would be mixed use along this old wagon trail, which is an 1866 wagon trail that was at one time the old Lincoln Highway, and another piece of the old Lincoln Highway comes over here. The Mahanas have their ranch over on this side for the last almost 40 years. And so this would be a mixed use along this old trail. So we'd reignite this old trail into a roadway for bicycles, for the potential of old wagons going across this trail. We've proposed a pedestrian equestrian bridge to link these 2 areas, Cameron Park and Serrano, because there's no real link along this area for bicyclists or hikers. So we'll show you some of that. Then we would have residential cottages along the creek side, which would be dedicated for workers right at the resort. Because so often when you see what's going on, there's no housing for staff. So we're going to build housing in, and this will be dedicated staff housing for the resort. And then ultimately we have here townhomes. So those townhomes, there's a real lack of this quality and style in El Dorado Hills. Give you an example. I was talking to Reverend Tom at the Episcopal Church. He had to go to Rancho Cordova because he couldn't find something of high enough quality, but a low enough price that he could meet that. So that's the type of quality we think that we'll be building in that. The townhome quality, we think also is a step down. When someone has a 4,000 foot home and they want to come down to an 1,800 square foot townhome, lock it, go. That's what the quality of what we're talking about for this section in the townhomes site. And then we have over on this side, a Memorial Grove, and we're still working on that. There's a real lack in the whole of the Hills area for remembrance of family. So it wouldn't be a cemetery, but it would be a memorial grove where people could dedicate their loved ones for a tree, for a bench. And so we're looking at different aspects of that on that area. So it gives you the overall plan. One of the pieces that we really feel strongly about is this link between these 2 areas. Now that this road, the country club has gone in, and we helped facilitate that through the Mahana property. And then there's another road planned here for the future. We think this has really opened up the Cameron Park side. So that gives you an overview of it. Let's go to the next. This gives you a look at the historic trails of 1866. The part that we're looking at is the piece that comes through. This was an 1866 map of all the trails, and we think reigniting this piece of the wagon trail, there's some beautiful old 8 and 10 foot rock walls over in the creek side. So reigniting this, connecting to this village center, and then connecting over to this 1,000 acres of open space over on the other side of Serrano. We think connecting all of that, Cameron Park, the whole of the specific plan, the Bass Lake Hills specific plan, with this village center and connecting over to this old wagon trail will be a fantastic piece for a variety of things, for education, for youth. And we're hopeful that we can run some wagons on that trail at some point. So let's go to the next. So this is the 1866 map. This is a circa 1900 when the old Lincoln Highway, which is Highway 50, went through the site and came back. This section is still there. It's about 2 feet thick, concrete, and we're urging a preservation of that. And the Mahanas have been at the forefront of preserving that piece of the Lincoln Highway, putting a bike trail on that to get bikes over to this side and then ultimately to Folsom Lake and the connection to the American River Trail, the 32-mile American River Trail. So this piece we've been studying. There's a plan from 20 years ago to put the sewer pipe down the middle of that trail to preserve the trail and then to maintain the trail. And some fabulous, if anyone wants to come on a hike, I'll show you some of this territory in here. I was in here in the spring and it was like Yosemite. It was 300 foot up to the roadway. This old Lincoln Highway was gorgeous. So we want to try to bring that history back and preserve it. Let's go to the next one. This is part of the circulation plan. This whole outline is the Bass Lake Hills specific plan. This is the old, they had designed a bike trail across the property. So we're going to propose to the county that we put that bike trail back on it. Or put it back to that usage, because now the bike trail comes down here, goes along here. We think we could get away from all the traffic, come across the property through this beautiful roadway that would become the village center and the 3 main oaks we have on the main piece of the property. Okay, how much more time do I have here? Yeah, this is the open space plan, and what we've colorized it because it was in black and white. But the green areas are the open space according to the plan. You can see the one piece of open space that we're going to ignite into the hiking trail, and then hiking trails and equestrian trails. The concept of the 1995 plan was to bring that throughout the whole plan. So we talk about that, and then we show you on the parcels themselves what we're thinking of on the next slide. So this is back to the parcels themselves. We have a major oak at the top, this grove of oaks where we'll use that as, it's about 1.5 acres of oaks there and a village center oak. And then we create a trail coming down, linking these 2 pieces with this proposed residential up here, linking with the hotels and the reception, and then establish a pond at the top and a pond at the bottom. And this is on the topography of the land. This is basically where winter water runs every year. Years ago, there may have been something there, but so we reignite that into a trail and then preserve this oak and then these oaks over in the grove. And then there are a few other oaks, but that gives you a sense of the specifically. This is a little more detail, and you can look at each one of these on the bike trail that comes across, the bridge, the proposed bridge, and I'll show you a little more about that. The yellow is the existing county bike trail. And on the bike plan, there is one to bring this bike trail over here. We're just proposing a pedestrian equestrian bridge and bike trail to get across that Bass Lake Road. It's much bigger than when the family first bought the properties because of the expansion of the roadway. Now it's 30 feet on one side. So on the property side of the family. This gives you a specific look, a little more detail, gives you the look of exactly where the bridge would be as we propose it, the trails, and then the existing bike trail as we move across. This is from the Western El Dorado County bike map. And we have just shown the connection through the property to here. There's a connection over on this side to Bass Lake Road through this bike trail, but there's no connection here. And we've heard loud and clear from a lot of people that connection is crucial from Cameron Park over to this side in the Serrano area. This is a picture of the bridge, but I'll show you a couple of conceptuals. And we're working on these conceptuals right now because we think there'll be funding out there for bike trails, equestrian trails, and bridges. So this is a more modern looking truss steel bridge, one that's a little older, and then a very old rail bridge. So we'd be looking at this quality and style of bridge to get across Bass Lake Road and to bring a monument of these old rocks, and you can keep going, into the whole of the Bass Lake. Another view, here's a view of that trail I talked about. It really doesn't do it justice. You have to go down and walk that trail and see the excitement of reigniting that wagon trail. And then some more detail on where exactly our, this is part of the unpaved hiking trail area. So you can see the quality of what's down there. This was taken in spring. It's much drier now, but we would propose to reignite. It really is a drainage. There's no name to this creek, but it's a drainage. So we would reignite it with flowing water going through. Some more pictures of that. There's a fabulous oak coming out of the rocks down there. When you walk down and see this, you can't be just excited about it. So these are the types of things that the hiking path, the unpaved hiking path, and all of it would be an ADA as well. The whole of the plan is our proposal. Okay, go on. Our architectural precedent. So we had to look what quality and what style are we looking at. So we thought of the rocks of the hills, and we thought of the sugar pines and the major timber here. The family has been here for 50 years, and they really thought we need something of a high enough quality. We looked at Lake Tahoe, we looked at the Four Seasons Resort, we looked at North Star, but we landed on the Iwani Hotel. Architect Underwood did this in 1927. It's one of my favorite places on earth. Not only the Iwani, but obviously Yosemite. And it's a pretty simple, straightforward design. And we have all the stones we need, as you know, in these hills, and we have the timber. Go on to the next one. So we looked for an architectural design. This is the Iwani dining room. Our hope would be this would be our third floor of the conferencing center, where we'd have both vintners. We were talking to the Wine Vintners Association today about how they could use a piece of this type of space. And these windows would look out to the Oak Grove as all the, you'll see, look out to the Oak Grove. This is the Bass Lake Hills side. And the Bass Lake Hills Road, Bass Lake Road is over here. This is the interior road. So this is one of the hotels looking to the west, and the same quality of stones, the timber, and some poured in place concrete, because the Iwani was also some poured in place colored concrete. So let's go to the next one. This is a view of that hotel on the end and walking up to the Oak Grove. Now this is the reception facility. First floor would be a porte cochere for cars and 2 restaurants. The second floor, because of the elevation, the Oak Grove sits up about 25, 35 feet. So we put all these buildings right up to the Oak Grove with plenty of expansion for another 100 years of growth. And then this is the level, and that would be the reception facility. And then the top floor would be that open vaulted room looking down to the Oak Grove. And then we have the final, you'll see. This would really be our first phase of the overall project. So now this is looking bird's eye view. That was the West Hotel you saw. The East Hotel is over on that side. That hiking path and the pools, the ponds on both sides, and then the waterway up to the major oak here. This is the creek side here. So this is the reception facility that we talked about, porte cochere below, restaurants. The first floor then walks right into the oak grove. So we're thinking there's probably, the Mahana family has facilities downtown that hold between 350 and 2,000 when it's all full. We think this could hold up to 350, 400 in a seated dinner style. For a reception, it could hold more than that, just a stand-up style. So that gives you an overall view. I think if there's any questions, I tried to get it in
Well, thank you for
12 to 15
adapting on the
minutes.
fly
Yeah,
since
yeah.
The file's still loading. So let's open it up. If there are any questions for Josh about this project or any comments, Josh Siri wants to hear them. The Mahana family's done a tremendous amount of outreach in the Bass Lake area. They want to hear from the entire community. So if you have a question, step on up to the microphone and let Josh hear it.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is it, I know where Bass Lake Road is this north or south of 50?
So this would be north of 50. Yeah, if you want to go back to that that location map. Yeah, because the Bass Lake Hills specific plan is all this piece in the middle, and that was developed in 1995. Good planning principles of today is to have your dense housing and village center right next to your transportation hub and corridor. So that's what we're proposing. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me the total amount of housing there?
Yeah, it's on this. I think it's, let me just look. 500 townhomes. Maybe you could put that one back up if you can find it there, John.
You want it to be?
Let me just look. 500 for sale townhomes, 503, 134 cottages up in that Creekside. So that should be Creekside cottages. And then I should probably put my glasses on. We have proposed 245 senior housing units. So we're not really sure how that would take its shape. But we think there'd be a dense senior housing units of type and 390 apartments along the old trail. And that would be our trail, street. That would be the bike trail and the shops underneath and apartments above. That's what we're looking at. Our first piece is we're hoping to be is that resort, and that's why we have that rendered so far. Yes, sir.
I was just curious about water.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it looks like it's going to be gorgeous from a
Yeah.
planning perspective.
Yeah.
But are you thinking reclaimed water, or how are you going to water?
Yeah, the El Dorado Irrigation District, the EID, has this all in its purview, but we, in this whole specific plan, need to be annexed into the EID for water and for sewer. Yep, so that would be, and we've had conversations with them, yes.
The county planning commission is the one who's pushing all this?
No, we are as private. I'm with the Mahana family. That's a family that's been here in the hills for 50 years. And they bought these properties 20 years ago. They reared the girls just across the street. We were talking as we came in. Why don't you stand up, Muhammad Mahana? He's been here for that long. And yeah. Yeah.
As we used to drive over to Tahoe, we all used to go by Sam's Town. And we thought that would be a wonderful thing to do to glorify the gold rush era, the wine country. So we bought these properties 35 years ago. 30 years ago, and altogether we have about 100 acres, 40 acres of ranch, and you're all welcome to come there and enjoy the view and the fruits. But Lincoln Highway goes through this property, and I studied it. This reminds me of our Silk Road back in Middle East, where I come from. The Silk Road goes from China through Europe and to Middle East. And so Josh has been very helpful. He accommodated that country club lane with the church, so we got access. I think it's a matter of time. We can't expect to have 5-acre ranchettes on Highway 50. Highway 50 has 80-some thousand traffic. We want to make sure this is a nice village. My family has been in the hospitality business for the last 40, 50 years. We restored the old Oddfellows Temple. It's about 180 years old. It was built in
1850s, I think, yeah.
So we took it 40 years ago, we restored it. We have had lots of wonderful fundraisers and events and all kinds of good nonprofit organizations and things like that. So we own these properties. We want to be part of this community. We want to see what the community wants.
Yeah.
What is this property good for?
Yeah.
And we just want to have a sustainable growth. I have 2 daughters that are very sustainable thinkers, both educated. They were raised here. They went to Camarado School, and they kind of think that sustainability is the key. We want to build a community that will survive me and my daughters. And we're not going to be selling it or something. We're going to be developing it. Thanks God, I have a few dollars that I can develop these properties. And we want first-class projects. So we want input from you people.
Yep.
We want the
Okay.
neighbors to interact with us.
Okay,
Can I
like,
finish my question?
yeah.
So he's proposing to build all this or help it, but the county planning commission has to approve it, right?
The Board of Supervisors, ultimately, it has to go through a process, yeah.
Okay, and then do the voters get a vote anywhere on this?
No, no, the way our state law works is it goes through the process, and that's a local process. So you all have an opportunity to talk to the Board of Supervisors, to talk to the Planning Commission. Now, we're still, this isn't a final project. We would only make it a final project to submit for approvals once we have some sense from the neighbors, once we have some sense from the Planning Commission, once we have some sense ultimately to the Board of Supervisors. And then the way our system works in California is the Board of Supervisors or the local city council has the say on what to do.
So if we have 5 more years of drought, you're not going to be able to move any of this stuff. And they can hardly get water out of Folsom.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
water is life.
Yeah, that has to be dealt with. We'll have to deal with that in the environmental analysis. What EID tells us now, or we wouldn't be moving forward with even this, is they have water to serve these properties. So now there has to be a whole environmental analysis to make sure that's possible. And that's what we'll do, what we'll do next. Let me go over here, yes.
All of these people in and out.
And that all comes in the second phase when we have to do a whole environmental analysis. And that'll determine what the traffic load on the street is. It may say, yeah, you can handle this, or no, this will put this at a higher level. We think that with the 4 churches and our idea of a spa at this location, more resort-like things, a conferencing and wedding venue. We think with those 4 churches, we'll have a lot of opportunity to use those 4 churches' parking facilities. I've talked to 3 of the 4 so far to talk about what facilities they have for weddings, family gatherings, end-of-life celebrations, and then shuttle folks from those places to this facility. So we'll see a whole, but that'll all be done in the analysis. There's a thing called vehicle miles traveled. we think because of those big venues, those big churches where, they can have the Catholic Trinity Church, I think they have 450, 500 pew seats, and they have enough parking for that. So we would be looking at it saying, well, those who aren't staying at the hotel would be parking up there, and then we'd shuttle them down for the reception and vice versa, back and forth. But those are just ideas we have now. We'll have to put those facts on paper, do the environmental analysis, and see how much vehicle miles traveled we can really do. And we also have another thing in the county, and that's level of service, LOS. That's another environmental analysis. State law has changed a little bit now, that they would rather see you go with vehicle miles traveled because it's more indication. So the county right now is using both. Vehicle miles traveled, what's it going to produce, and the level of service, what level is going to be. Okay.
Thank you. Josh, I'm Bill Knox. I live here in the Four Seasons development, not far from here. And I, like many people for years, have been a big fan of history, of the historical element that we have here. And I personally want to salute you, Josh, and the family that you represent for referencing the historical element that you're talking about here. So my question to you is, and I'm also a cyclist.
I am too, every day.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, you're referencing the Lincoln Highway and the old 1866 trails going through there. Will there be plaques and or monuments that will tell people who don't live in El Dorado County, who are maybe just visiting here, or even for those who do live in the El Dorado County, about the immense historical importance that this area has? Absolutely.
We hope that it'll be more than just plaques, and we appreciate your comments, because the family, as you just heard Mr. Mahana talk about it, that history that was what he fell in love with when he walked on this old Lincoln Highway from 1913. And we'd like to invite you all out to the ranch side, which is 40 acres over on the other side, not this side, because it's still there. And to be able to walk and to ride and drive on that, bicyclists use it right now, but it's not an official bike path. So we want to urge the county, as the next piece of country club comes through, that we want to preserve that whole Lincoln Highway. The Mahanas, we hosted the 2019 100th anniversary at the ranch for the reenactment of the troops coming across in 1919. Well, in 2019, we hosted the Old Lincoln Highway Association, and they drove vehicles from one coast all the way through. A young colonel, a lieutenant colonel, was in that caravan in 1919 by the name of Dwight D. Eisenhower, and probably got the idea of the interstate system from them. But we're going to, hopefully we'll do more than just put plaques up. Our view is deeper than that. Yeah.
Josh, we need to.
Okay.
Sort of wrap. We have
All right.
another item
Yes.
on,
Yeah.
wait, Josh, we have
Okay.
one item on the agenda.
Okay.
We do have one Zoom call we'd like to, because people are calling in.
Okay.
as
We
well.
have this lady right
So
here.
I'm going to ask this Zoom call to jump in real quick, and then we're going to finish up over there.
Okay.
Pamela Jarrett, if you'd like to unmute yourself, your hand is up. Go ahead and ask your question for Josh.
Hi there. Are you able to hear me?
Hold on, Pamela. We're not hearing you in the room here. Sorry. How about now? Can we hear you now? Thanks. Okay. You want to try that again? Not hearing it.
Well, let's go to you for a minute.
Go ahead and
while
ask that, Pamela. We're going to get this fixed for you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Well, there's a lot of roadways, Bass Lake Road, but I'm not sure where your property is, but we've been meeting with a variety of folks. Which property is yours, ma'am? Just below EID. I think one of the plans
Hi there,
I
hi there,
understand
hi there,
is
hi
they're going to come out to Bass Lake Road and come down. They've got some pipes down there, and they have another pipe down at the bottom of at the old country club. So I don't know that they're going through your property, but I'd like to talk to you so that because we're getting around in a circle to property owners. So. Oh, you did? Okay, well then I better
Thank you,
better
Jeff.
get it. Yeah. Oh.
That PDF application with the pictures that you were showing us, is that available?
Yep.
It's
all
on the county
online.
website, but we also have it posted on the APAC website.
And you can go to the APAC website or the county website, or we can get it to you. Yes, sir. Yeah, we think the whole of the specific plan will build out over time because that's what it's been planned to do. We think this will just be the village center for all of those homes and for Serrano on this side of the road and for Cameron Park.
But a village center needs some like facility for people. They're actually, to go to the store, they're gonna go up to the new Safeway, but you're talking about resort and hotel.
Well, we're talking about shops underneath living, apartments. We're talking about a variety of services, medical services, chiropractic services, massage services, a variety of things that we think the whole area, what we're hearing, people need and want. So there'll be a whole host of things. Restaurants as well will be a part of it. But yeah.
Questions?
Yeah. No, 500 was the proposed townhome piece, layered townhomes. 390 is the apartments along that, the old trail. And that's 24 units per acre. The townhomes, I think, are 20 units per acre. And then the cottages above are 20 units per acre. I think it was a 1,260, yeah. 1,200.
We're going to try one more time to see if Pamela is able, if we're able to hear her in the room. It's not on the speaker. Go ahead, Pamela. Let's give this another try.
Hi there, I'll give it a shot. Are you able to hear me?
Let's see. You know what? I'm getting an echo now. Sorry about that. Go ahead and try.
Are you able to hear me?
Not very well. I'll try one more time.
Another question? Yes, sir.
You know what? It's okay. I'll text in.
Do those come out of comments in a forum like this where we're going to see all that, have a chance to talk through that, challenge some of it as it goes along?
Yep.
And that's not your project. This is just
Yep, that's what happens. The notice of preparation is first. And then that's to tell everybody, hey, we're preparing an environmental report on these specific properties. And then secondly is the actual draft of the environmental report and then the final environmental report. So there's hearings along the way of each of those instances.
So if we're on the list there, we'll get notification of those.
Yeah, you'll either get notification through APAC or through the Board of Supervisors website. But yeah, you should be on this list. And yeah.
I'm going to need to wrap it up because we have one more project to go. But I want to thank everybody for their questions tonight. Josh is very kind to be here. This is the third time they've been here and presenting. 2 times virtually. Mr. Mahan has been here as well. I'm certain that we'll be seeing them again.
Yeah.
So, but we thank you guys for coming tonight. We're sorry for the challenge with the Zoom comments. We're going to see if we can get that working. But thanks again for the amount of outreach you've been doing, and we appreciate the time you spent with us.
Yep.
Another question. Both this project and the one we're going to be hearing next, these are very preliminary and they just started their application process with the county. Probably by the time the environmental impact reports are prepared, you're talking 16 to 20 months. The trouble is you just asked now, once that draft environmental impact report is prepared, the community, APAC, everyone else, we get 45 days to review it. Those reports can be anywhere from 200 pages, or if you had to labor through the El Dorado Hills Pacific Plan or the old golf course one, that was over 1,500 pages long. They are very detailed. They are prepared by professionals. We are all volunteers. This is not our mantra. This is not what we do for a living. So we do our best to review them. That's when we need your help to review these things, break it up. There's 13 required sections that they have to address: environmental, traffic, noise, historical, biological, 7 or 8 others. If you break it up by chapters, then 2 or 3 people can get together, ask the right questions, challenge it, then come to an APAC meeting and come back, or go before the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors, and then ask those questions. So this is very early days in both these projects. So they will be back at APAC. There will be a lot of activity in the Planning Commission. Again, go to the APAC website. Anything that goes on the county site in planning, it gets onto our APAC website within 2 or 3 days, as long as the county links work, which is a different issue.
And they disappear sometimes. So.
Yeah, they disappear sometimes. Yes, sir.
Just make sure I understand. So the second project you're referring to is the Costco project?
That's the other one we're discussing tonight.
Then their environmental.
No, sir.
No.
They've done their own internal studies. They've probably done some preliminary traffic studies. Once they get to the point in the process, their application, then the county planning department will select an environmental specialist to prepare the DEI, or the draft environmental impact report. That process can take 12 months to 18 months or longer. It does a full study on the 13 required things, historical and everything else. Once that comes back, then it is released, and then APAC has 45 days to review it. Anyone else, you don't have to review it through a group. You can view it by yourself. That's when the process starts. So no, if they've done anything internally, and I'm sure they have, and they can address that, but the official process through the planning department start when the planning department selects an environmental specialist and they start preparing the report.
Okay. So with that, thank you guys again for being here. We're going to move on to our next project we're talking about tonight, and our representative Brandon, I have the controller for you. This is the Dorado Hills, the EDH52 Commercial Center, which features a commercial aspect on one side and proposed Costco on the other side. Let's see, I have one of them. Yeah, I've got the controller here so that we can. Oh, maybe we're not. Yeah, you can just set it down on the podium if you want, but I'm trying to make sure. I was trying to let you drive.
I don't know if anyone wants to stand up and stretch if you're able. I know
Yeah.
I'm down for a long period of time.
Apparently, the distance on this isn't working. So if you want to yell at me to advance the screen, I'll do that for you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and introduce yourself and Brandon.
Well, welcome APAC Chair, members of public. My name is Tiffany Wilson. I'm with RSC Engineering, and I represent the owner and applicant for the project that we have here before you, EDH52 Commercial Center. And we are going to present it to you preliminary stages, just like the previous project. You want to go to the next slide?
I'm sorry. There's too many things going on in the room. Okay. Now you have my full attention. I'm sorry.
So we're here. Here's an overview of what we'll be talking to you about. We'll just do some welcome remarks, project background and site history. We'll talk about the planning entitlements that we're requesting. And then I will speak briefly on the northern site of the project. And then we have the Costco team that will describe the southern side of the project. And then we'll be here to answer any questions that you may want. Next. So again, my name's Tiffany Wilson and representing the owner and applicant. I believe via Zoom, Angelo Christie, who's the owner representative for EDH52, which is the property owner, is listening in. And then from the Costco team that we have in the back, we have Kim Katz from Costco, Lynette Diaz with Urban Planning Partners, David Babcock with David Babcock and Associates, Joseph Welch with MG2, Peter Bernard with Kieran Wright, Costco's engineers, and then also Mike DeBrodo from Costco. And then I believe we have Gina Hamilton is the staff planner we're working with. She should be on via Zoom with the planning department. And then we do have, or the county has hired an EIR consultant, Ascent Environmental. So our objectives tonight are to describe the project to you so you can hear it from us and see it first, and then also meet our team. So a little background about this property. It is bifurcated by the Silva Valley Parkway and the interchange. It is part of the El Dorado Hills Specific Plan, which came in 1988. It was purchased by the current owner in 1989. That's EDH52. In about 2001, that's when the homes were starting to be built for Serrano. In 2012, the property was rezoned to commercial regional plan development. This kind of coincides with the design of the interchange and the parkway. We initially submitted a retail application in 2015, and then subsequently in 2018, Costco came before you and had a meeting. And there was, they took that feedback and redesigned the site, and that's what you will see before you tonight. In 2016 is when the interchange and the parkway opened, and then our current application was submitted to the county in April of this year. So the property is general plan land use designation commercial. It's been that way since 1994. And commercial is a range of retail, office, service uses to serve the El Dorado County community. It is mostly zoned commercial, regional, and planned development. And that's usually more of a regional shopping center that serves a larger community beyond just the El Dorado Hills and is located along major arterials. There is a little small triangle portion that is commercial limited, which is a lower intense commercial type use. And there is also the former Tong Road. That's the transportation corridor zone in the blue. So we are requesting a number of entitlements. We have the planned development, which would be for the project development. We have a couple different rezones. The northern side will rezone from the commercial regional plan development to community commercial plan development, which allows more community type uses, and then would allow a self-storage project with a conditional use permit. The southern side will rezone everything to the commercial regional. So those two little pieces I spoke about would all be commercial regional, so it would be consistent. The north side will request a conditional use permit for the self-storage use. The north side will also request a tentative map to split the 3 lots into 8 lots. The south side will do a lot line adjustment, which is a different mapping, so it can all fit the Costco development. And then this project will also go through environmental review and will need an environmental impact report where the county is the lead agency and they've hired Ascent Environmental to prepare the report and the different studies. So the previous project, you guys started asking some good questions. So the county has already extensively looked at this project and made a determination that a number of topics will need to be analyzed in this environmental impact report. So listed before you is aesthetics, air quality, biology, geology, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology, which is your stormwater, noise, public services, which include your utilities as well as fire and police, and then transportation or traffic.
That says water supply.
That falls under your public services, your utilities, so sewer, water, storm drain. Aesthetics, the aesthetics one. So just a brief county review process we submitted in April 2021, and we're going through the county process. There will be ongoing project refinements. There will be more community engagement similar to the meeting we're having with you tonight. The CEQA review, which is the environmental review, the EIR, it will be prepared. The first task is that notice of preparation, which is being prepared and should be mailed out to people within a 1 mile radius in shortly. And then during that 30-day review, they'll have a scoping meeting, and that scoping meeting will be to get comments on what you want analyzed in the environmental impact report. And whereas we're just describing the project right now, that meeting will be the big one to discuss what you want to see in that environmental impact report. They will take those comments, prepare their document, and then a draft EIR will be published for public review. We're anticipating maybe winter, spring 2022, but we don't have dates yet from the county, so they will dictate what those dates are. And then you do, as the public, get a 45-day public review. So then you can come to the meetings, you can write or send letters, emails with your comments. Those comments are then compiled into the final EIR. So a second document that is prepared by the county's Ascent Environmental, the county's environmental consultant. And then that is also published for review. We are anticipating summer 2022, but that date is flexible. And then this project will need to go before both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Planning Commission will hear everything, but then they decide on the plan development and the conditional use permit, whereas the board, or you have to go for a rezone, and the environmental impact report takes it up to the Board of Supervisors, and then they will review everything. So I'll just briefly talk about the north side, and then I will hand it over to Costco's team to talk about the Costco side. So the north side is, if you drive up Silver Valley Parkway, you know it's very hilly. The north side, if you're driving up on your right, the Serrano homes are up high and then it slopes down low. The retail will be closer to the Silver Valley Parkway elevation, and then the self-storage will sit a little bit higher. The retail component is about 31,000 square feet. We have 5 buildings, and it'll be kind of fast casual dining uses, 1 gas station, and other inline shop retails like your dry cleaners, your nail salons, those type of inline uses. Then on the other portion will be the self-storage, which we're proposing about 6 buildings, one of the leasing offices, and then some additional RV and boat storage. The site plan will meet the county's requirements regarding parking, landscaping to get the right shade amounts. The lighting will make sure it doesn't glare off-site into the streets, so the surrounding homes. We also deal with stormwater, low impact development, so we will make sure that the stormwater runoff after you develop isn't more than how much is there today. Access from the site. So the main access, we are proposing a traffic signal midway in the site, the main driveway that kind of separates the self-storage and the retail. There will be a secondary point of access off of a portion of Country Club Drive. So we will build a small portion to get to that secondary access. And you need that for fire purposes and also for circulation purposes. And then there will be a traffic signal there, which is Country Club Drive, the Silver Valley Parkway, and the former Clarksville Crossing Road. And then there is it's labeled secondary access at the south coming off the self-storage, but that will be an emergency vehicle access should there be the need for fire services at the self-storage component. And that pops out to the Tong Road that's there today.
What is that up on the upper left, the corner, where the round part is?
That's RV and boat storage. That would be part of the self-storage.
So that's in the backyard of those $1 million homes.
So the county will have a project in the future for extending the Country Club Drive, and so that will separate the commercial development from the existing homes.
What's the schedule?
We would have to ask the county. I do not know that answer.
I should ask about phasing the schedule for this whole project. Are you going to build the Costco first and the other part? Or is it ID in the project description that you do mass grading in one big phase? for both sites?
So we will analyze it where they could develop together, or they can develop individually.
The grading will be done all at once. Is that correct?
It can be, or it doesn't have to be. It depends. So right now, the north side, we don't have specific tenants. So whereas the south side, it's a Costco. The north side, we are setting it up to be able to be marketed for these types of uses. So I can't tell you that we don't have anyone, so I wouldn't know if they'd be ready to develop as soon as the project is approved.
Can I ask you a question I have on the Country Club Drive? So is that, are you saying the Country Club Drive will go behind that development, between the development and the houses that are existing?
Yeah, so if you can kind of see the dash line that separates Dorado and then our colored exhibit, that kind of voided area, that it will be the future
The whole
country
road's
club.
gonna go behind there and then up to Cameron Park?
That's correct.
Again, if you're going to ask a question, please let me get the people on Zoom in the hearing. They cannot hear you.
So if we could get through the presentation, we'll come back to the questions. That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
And I did want to say that for the Country Club Drive, the extension, there are 3 projects in the county CIP. There's a Tong Road to Bass Lake Road, which is the most expensive. There's this short one from Tong to Silva Valley, which we'll probably touch part of. And then there's the big one from Silva Valley through the old golf course and coming out between Raley's and La Borgata. So I'm sorry, and we'll let you just jump back to your presentation. Elevation.
The next one, yeah. All right, so like I had said, since we don't have a specific user, for the north side, we're proposing some design guidelines and some themes. So then should a user come in and they meet these design guidelines, then they would be able to move forward. If some new user comes in or something totally different, they'd have to go through this whole process once again. And so we looked around the Serrano community, and mostly a Mediterranean style theme. So that's what we have shown in this sketch. And the building heights will vary, earth tone colors, different materials like stone would be used. And so there were some photos of kind of different types of projects that would fall within that Mediterranean theme. And then the next one is just an example of what the self-storage would look like along that same flavor of color and stone materials and varying heights of the building. And then just another recap on the rezone. So it's zoned commercial regional, the north side, and we actually want to rezone it to the community commercial for these kind of lower intense commercial uses, and then for the self-storage, which are more local community serving type uses. And so that's for the north side, and then I'll introduce Joseph Welch with the Costco architect team to talk about Costco.
Thanks, Tiffany. As she mentioned, my name is Joseph Welch. I work with Mulvaney MG2 Architecture, sorry. We've been a partner of Costco's as their architect since the beginning, in the first warehouse in Seattle. I personally have been helping Costco develop projects in the general Bay Area for the last 15 years, bringing Costco's to communities like yours. Our design intent is very similar to Costco's mission statement, bringing high quality goods at an affordable price to its members. So in our design, what we try to do is bring a high level of design, incorporating sustainability and efficient design at a low cost, which ultimately benefits the member at the end. This site is approximately 17 acres. We have roughly 160,000 square foot warehouse, and there's about 761 parking stalls. This is a warehouse only site, so just house the warehouse. One of the previous applications, there was a fuel station that has been removed. So this would be a warehouse only, and that's primarily because the size of the site and its shape, it doesn't work for Costco in that sense. You can see there's a area of parking where there's no landscaping. That is a structured parking area. That area will house around 214 stalls, essentially underground, primarily used for employees and overflow usage. The rest of the parking will all be at grade with the warehouse. There's 4 access points, sorry.
back to the previous slide. There's 4 access points. Some of our initial traffic analysis has indicated that there may be the need for the signal there that connects to the northern development. That'd be our main point of access. It brings you down into the parking field and at grade with the warehouse. Then our secondary parking field access is on Clarksville Crossing to the west side. That would enter into the on-grade parking as well. We have an alternate 3rd access point, which would take you directly into the subterranean parking level. Again, that's just a structured parking scenario where you have parking underground. This would have a vertical transportation element of a static ramp, switch backing back and forth to get up to the entrance, along with a couple different freight elevators that are sized for multiple members and carts at the same time. There's a 4th access point on Clarksville Crossing to the far east there. That is primarily for our receiving traffic. The point of this is to try to keep as much of that traffic separate from the member traffic. So they'd be entering and exiting out of that exit. They would travel up to the receiving area. You can go ahead and switch to the next slide. As you can see, you'll travel up that area to the loading and receiving area. That's also where we have the at grade receiving for smaller deliveries. It's the employee entrance area as well at off hours. And working our way around across the parking area directly adjacent to the warehouse. You can, it's kind of hard to see it at the screen there, but there's the vertical circulation there in between those parking stalls directly adjacent to the building and the main entrance. And that's also where the elevators would be accessed from the below ground parking. Then you have the main entrance. Around the corner, you would have a tire center. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Costco's program, but that's how it sits on this site specifically. Silva Valley is to the north. So that's the road as it exists today. That's Clarksville Crossing to the south of there. I don't know if you can see his cursor moving there to the south.
All right, Silva Valley Parkway is here. And then at the bottom is Clarksville Crossing.
The building design itself has incorporated the same color palette as the northern development. We've used a earth tone colors to mimic the feel of the northern properties and also of the environment that we're going into. The building has been grounded with a concrete masonry unit, split face material that's to mimic stone. And then on top of that, we have a highly efficient architectural metal panel that's insulated, provides a good R value, which speaks to Costco's desire to have a sustainable structure. And we're alternating the colors of that to break up the mass of the elevations. These are some preliminary perspectives that we've created based on our initial design concepts. Next slide. This is just a recap of the rezoning of this property. A majority of it all is currently commercial, regional commercial. There's just a few areas in the southeast corner that are for the transportation corridor that are being rezoned to be commercial regional so that it's all one use. It was mentioned earlier, there's some lot line adjustments. That's just being adjusted so that we can better facilitate Costco's use, but it would all still stay in the same property as you see now. The next few slides will give a glimpse into the future. About 10 years down the road, what we've done is we've taken a couple different viewpoints here, one from the south looking north and one from the north looking south. The idea of our colors and of our landscaping choices is to choose local landscaping elements and the colors, as you can see, to help blend into the environment. So if you go to the next slide, this is looking north. This is a picture taken close to the residents that were to the south of the property. You can see the Costco there to the right, and you can faintly see the gray concrete parking structure. It gets screened pretty well by the existing trees on the south side of Clarksville Crossing. Then you can see up in the distance, behind the Costco sign, you can see the storage units, and then the retail elements and the casual dining elements are really going to be screened by the mature trees of our parking lot. Costco does use drip irrigation for their landscaping. This is to minimize the water usage. They use an Alpana system that regulates their water usage to ensure that they're monitoring that on a daily basis. And this, again, references a picture of about 10 years down the road when the trees have matured. Yes.
So the lot that you're proposing to put this Costco on slopes.
Yes.
Are you proposing to raise the lot to make it flat or dig down?
No, so it's a great question, and thank you for asking that. The question was, do we raise the site to make the Costco flat, or do we dig down? The point of the parking structure was actually to minimize the amount of mass grading. So it was actually the most efficient way to sit on this site. So what we're using with the parking structure is, as that grade slopes down towards Clarksville Crossing, that parking structure, we will basically create height of that differing slope so that the building itself actually is on a lower grade than the existing grade that's there now. There will be a steep slope from Silva Valley Parkway down to the warehouse. There's a couple different retaining walls that are going to be back behind the warehouse. If you're familiar with the Folsom warehouse, it won't be that size of retaining walls. They'll be smaller than that. But we're actually going to be cutting into the hill to establish a grade, a finished floor grade. That then extends out over the structured parking, and then that parking structure would make up that difference. This allows us to minimize the amount of mass grading and land disturbance during that stage of the project. Helps the speed of construction and also lessens the amount of impact during that process. This view is then looking back the other way, looking south from the neighborhoods to the north. You can see that you have the storage units to the left of the screen with the RV boat trailer parking area. And then to the right of the screen, you have the inline retail and the casual dining elements. It's hard to see in this picture, but in between those, you can see in the distance, there would be the Costco building. There's a lot of trees, as you can see, and the trees are required per California guidelines for a shade efficient coefficient so that we can provide enough shade to reduce the heat gain associated with a parking lot. So in 10 years from now, we feel these trees would make this type of mature level. And I do want to mention, there's been a lot of talk about the country club extension. You can see there in the faint kind of shaded area there, ghosted in, is where that road would be falling. That road would have then frontage on both sides of the street with landscaping per county standards as well. So there'd be additional trees added with the extension of the Country Club Drive as well. That concludes the presentation. And so now we can get on to, I'm sure, more questions and discussion.
Okay, we got a microphone coming to you, so the people tuned in online can hear you.
Would you actually mind going back to the slide where it shows more of a bird's eye view where you see the two sites?
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, you know what? Would help if I actually shared it. Sorry about that. I'm looking at it here, it looks great. There we go.
So you see the dark grove, the dark shaded grove that runs west of the site. That's all wildlife. That's all natural area. There's a trail walking right through there. So I want that addressed as well. And I didn't see anything about the wildlife listed on your bullet points, because you've got coyotes and foxes and deer and hawks and owls and everything in that area that you're gonna completely wipe out right there.
Plan at all.
Well, I believe, I don't know, this doesn't have a pointer, but I believe you're talking about the dark tree lines.
No, I'm talking about the whole project.
No, I'm answering the first gentleman's question. That's all outside of this project development.
Well, I know, but it's gonna back right to it. I mean, and no matter how you slice it, you run semis through there and you grade and you construct and you're gonna scare everything out of that area.
I mean, it's zoned for commercial development, and it is part of the environmental impact report. So they will analyze, you know, the protection of species and everything. Respecting the natural environment, you know, I believe the architecture that we've chosen does fit within the community. We've specifically chosen the earth tones, and we would be planting with native plant types to try to tie into the type of native plant growth that the county would recommend for us. Well, we can address that with our submittal.
Joseph, I think you're the right guy for the job here, explaining us here that your company, your architectural design company, opened up the first Costco in Issaquah, outside of Seattle there. Congratulations with being a supplier to Costco for that long period of time. In the meantime, we have your company has developed over 813 Costco stores nationwide. 20 new stores are opening up this year. 2 of them will be out of this country. Of the stores that you have opened up and designed yourself with your company, how many of those stores are in such a close vicinity of an elementary school where we have, I'm sure you went at the site, I hope, I would imagine so. And I would like to know how many other Costco's are such close to a vicinity of an elementary school as this location might be. Thank you.
It's a good question, thank you. And it is not necessarily uncommon for that to be the case. I can specifically speak to Redwood City, one where that has schools next to it. And we definitely would take into consideration what that impact is. And again, that's part of the traffic analysis and part of the environmental impact report that they would analyze for sensitive receptors is what they call them. And so we would be looking to that as part of this environmental report. But it's not necessarily uncommon to have a Costco in the same vicinity of an elementary school.
How many of your stores are within 5 miles of the next Costco?
Yeah, that's not that uncommon.
6 minutes to the next Costco.
Right.
It's like a mile.
Thank you. Question on the north side. You mentioned the retail is build to suit, correct? So you don't have tenants in tow at this point? Okay. And then is that the same status for the self-storage?
Right, so they don't have a specific storage person. Right now, they're just setting it up based on their market research that this is lower intensity use for the north side, less traffic. And so that's why they put that up. Plus, it's up a little bit higher, so it doesn't give the same visibility from the street to the interstate that retail is on. So that's why
Okay. So safe to say they're open to other options besides the self-storage?
So we started looking at the project in 2015 with a number of different options, and self-storage was not on the table then. There was a hotel, they went away, so the market's always evolving. So I don't know what the next person might be looking at, but right now that's the highest probability for that area.
Related to that question, so what's the restriction on anybody? You're saying that somebody could come there and build, right?
So the entitlements that we're going before the county right now is the plan you saw. So if self-storage didn't come in and they wanted to build offices, it would have to go back through the planning entitlement process and their own environmental review process. The only thing that somebody would come in is they'd have to meet these design guidelines that we'd set forth. So they would have to look with the Mediterranean look and those materials. And then if they fit in that footprint and fit with the architectural design, then they would be able to move forward with this entitlement.
There's one other comment in that, what's the idea of sales tax revenue going to El Dorado County? It's just a matter of location, I think, is where the disagreement is. So if you spend, with all the different areas in the county to build a Costco, you spend a few minutes explaining why it's there versus anywhere else.
Yeah. Olson's already destroyed its city, put it out there.
Well, access was a big reason, plus the current zoning, which allows for this type of regional commercial project. So that's why we've looked at this property. To answer one of the questions earlier about the density, there are other instances that Costco's are this close. And South San Francisco is one specifically where they're even closer, I think, than these two.
There's 6 million people in the Bay Area. There's 45,000 here.
So I understand that. There's to address that, and so that the people online can hear it, the density of people is being a concern. We wouldn't be looking at this property if Costco didn't have the number of members in this area that would be shopping at this location. So this isn't for those people. This is for the people of El Dorado City, El Dorado Hills.
I have two questions about the north part. First one is, there will be a gas station, and how far it is from the elementary school.
Provides criteria for the distance between gas stations and sensitive uses, which school and even residents are. And they require certain analysis in the air quality to analyze that. And so that's what the environmental document will address. And then if there's mitigation measures, those will be applied to the project. Maybe it says you can't have a gas station that has 10 pumps because that's too much. Then you would be restricted to 6 pumps. But that's what this air quality report that the environmental consultant that the county's hired will look at. And they will look at how close the sensitive receptors are.
Before you get to the other question, an example close here in El Dorado Hills right now is the new Safeway on Bass Lake Road. The fuel station literally shares a property line with the proposed, it's a Rescue Unified School District school site, a K-8 school site. So they share the exact same property line right now. So if they obviously did the analysis to determine how many pump stations to put in and not have that impact on that future school site.
And I will say there was an option that had a gas station closer to the homes, and that maybe would be a concern, and so that is why it's closer to the house.
But you don't have the
I'm
number
not
of feet?
an air quality.
But you don't have the number of feet in
So
your
I don't
plans?
know, but that's what the specialists that will do the air quality analysis, they will know that information and they will know the criteria. And then when they do the analysis, they will put that in their model and it will come out to determine if we are too close or we're not too close to. I don't know, because I'm not an air quality.
So when we after, and then after this question, we're going to try the online again and we'll get back into the room, but we might have this resolved. So go ahead back there.
This question is for both of you. I know when Serrano was put in, they had to work with the county for there only could be so many street lights because of the impact of lights in the community. So we don't have, you know, you can go so far before you'll have another street light. They just sort of bounce pretty sparse between. I know just from driving down Highway 50 and seeing the Costco down there, how it's lit up, you know, 24/7 and it's quite bright. So I was wondering if you guys are also held to the same standard that the Serrano community was held to as far as your lighting goes. So would we expect less? And same thing in the strip mall area or whatever you call it, your area. And that's one question. And the second question is, did you guys also have to put in your proposals, is there an allowance for a stone wall to be placed surrounding the edge of the community to sort of help with the impact of the sound, the light and all that? Is that part of your proposal as well? And if not, is there a way that that can be included, or do you have a consideration for that?
So from the north side perspective, it's kind of the same thing. A noise study will be prepared as part of the report. Right now, the Serrano homes compared to the north side sit higher. So putting a wall may not give you any sort of protection from the noise, but the noise analysis will again determine if we need any mitigation measures such as a wall, or sometimes even denser landscaping helps, you know, some of the noise decibels as well. We also, as we said, there will be the Country Club Drive extension in the future, so there will be a buffer of space between the homes and the retail development. And then regarding the lighting, I don't recall what your criteria is, but we can definitely look at something lower. LED, those types of lights are what's required now, not the other kind that are more bright. You also have to comply with certain safety requirements, so it can't be dark at a shopping center because then the police can't patrol it as well. So we definitely, that's something that we can look and, you know, maybe accommodate.
And to just a second, I want to add to what Tiffany said about the lighting. There's a balance with lighting. You have a balance with height versus number of fixtures. Obviously, the higher the fixture, the less fixtures you would need. So Costco would be proposing a light fixture that's about 36 feet tall. That allows us to minimize the number of fixtures in the field, to minimize the number of lamps. Now, typically you need to have a minimum of 1 foot candle within the parking lot. And then you have to drop that foot candle to 0 at the property line. That's very typical. You know, as the lights come down, you would just have more fixtures. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. With respect to the type of lights, like she said, LED lights would be used. And then with the after hours scenario, typically the lighting that's left on at a Costco after hours is purely for security reasons, and also for the employees that are working there after hours. That all the lighting within the site can be monitored within the building management system. So they typically will dim the lights in certain areas or turn off the lights in certain areas and only provide the light in the areas that they need to provide when the store is actually closed and it's only just employees doing the work that they may be doing.
Let me try this one more time real quick. Let me get the, we got 10 people here that online that have been waiting. Let me do this and we'll come right back into the room. So I'm going to go to Amy. Amy, if you want to unmute yourself, we're going to try this one more time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfectly, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm a concerned parent. I have 2 children, young children, ages 4 and 6, that attend Oak Meadow, and hearing the Oak Meadow Elementary School, it was certainly glossed over the close proximity to the school. And there doesn't seem to be any traffic adjustments that would help with access to the school. Right now, turning left from Silva Valley into the school, we have to yield to oncoming traffic because we don't have a stop sign or a stoplight. And we would be having an increased flow of traffic coming from Costco back towards the south side. So I wanted to represent a group of parents. I have about 250 signatures from Oak Meadow Elementary School parents that wrote a letter to APAC. And we also mailed it to the Board of Supervisors and the Department of Transportation. We are extremely concerned about the gas station proximity to the school. Benzene exposure has been linked to childhood leukemia. We are also concerned about the traffic impact that would have on the school. If this development did move forward, we would request that at least a driveway be extended from the stop signal at Clarksville Road, and the undeveloped portion of the land be converted into a parking lot for the school. So if this is going to go in, it must benefit us in some way. And in addition, there should be pedestrian crossing for students to safely pass across the street at the stoplight. So we'd like to understand how the safety of the students, their health and their safety is being addressed. Thank you.
If you want to have any sort of response, if there's any insight you can provide right now. I know that Amy has her group has a letter. We received it. They sent a copy to the Board of Supervisors. Sorry, my mic's off. Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, I believe it's going to be going to the Planning Department, and Gina will get a copy as well. But they have a lot of questions. There's a lot of community members. So if there's anything you can address tonight with her question/statement, go ahead and jump in. Otherwise, we'll make sure you get a copy of the letter.
Yeah, with the addition of any future signal, there would always be the addressing of the pedestrian crossing scenarios. The traffic analysis will also determine, as mentioned earlier, vehicle miles traveled and level of service. The county, looking at both of those items, that will be analyzed as part of the EIR as well. And so with its impact to the neighborhood and to the school, that's what we're looking to the environmental impact report to tell us. It will identify what type of mitigation measures would be necessary, and then that would be up for approval by the approving bodies, so that if the project was to go forward and that was deemed to be part of it, that would be something that we'd have to agree to.
Guys, I know that the environmental report will come out, blah, blah. Silva Valley right now outside of Oak Meadow is an issue. Nobody follows the speed limit unless it's me and they're behind me honking or driving 55 miles an hour. We do not have a protected left, as Amy said, into that school. The parking is a huge issue, as I know most elementary schools are around here. Today was the first day of school and I still have PTSD from drop off. Kids were frogging it across Silva Valley with, again, 55-mile-per-hour drivers trying to get their kid on time. I was with my husband ripping my kid out in the middle of the parking lot trying to get them there. I know that your project is going to impact a problem we are already having. And so, as I said, I just want to solidify what Amy is saying. That school needs, the problems outside of that school need to be addressed with this project because it is already a problem.
Let's do one more from the online. We'll go back in the room and then we got a couple more online. So I'm going to jump to Heather. It's Heather S. I can't see your last name, Heather, but if you want to unmute, go ahead and ask your question.
Heather Siefkes, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes, thank you, Heather.
Yeah, I live in Serrano. I have a direct view of both EDH52 South and North from my house. Like Amy, I have two very young children. My daughter started kindergarten at Oak Meadow today. I'm also a pediatric critical care doctor. So I know that the leading cause of death for children is accidental death, of which motor vehicle accidents and auto versus pedestrian accidents makes up a significant portion. Like Amy and the other mom that just spoke, after experiencing school drop off this morning, I can't believe there hasn't been a significant accident leading to a poor outcome among children in our area this far. I won't go into all of the details again, as it's already been mentioned by Amy in regards to traffic, the light, the insufficient parking and such, but all of that needs to address to needs to be addressed to accommodate the current needs to safely access the school before any further development is considered, as commercial developments will only make that worse and even less safe. Thank you.
So with electric vehicles being the big thing specifically in California, does Costco see a big future economic gain future for putting in gas stations still?
We're not putting in a gas station here.
I thought that was on the north.
The north side's not a Costco. It would just be a standard gas station. So you don't have a specific one, but it would not be a
But
Costco.
the question still stands.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
But so state of California has code called Cal Green, and Cal Green does require, there's different tiers to Cal Green. The mandatory level tier is 6% of the stalls on site need to be clean air vehicles. So it's a combination of van pool, carpool.
I think you're missing that question. I was interested in Costco's position on building gas stations with their stores. Is it a limit
Yeah, there's,
time before you
it's,
stop doing that? I'm just curious.
yeah. If the numbers indicate it, yes, only about 2% of the population drive electric cars.
It's got to wait for a long time.
Over that side, Jim.
Hi there, I'm Jason Roth. I live in a home near this site. My view will look at this site here. And I have a couple things I want to point out. I'm a Costco member. I like Costco. Okay. When I bought the house, I knew this was a commercial site and I knew it was going to be developed. I'm from San Francisco. I've lived in El Dorado Hills for almost 20 years. I went to the Costco in San Francisco many times. Had a 4-lane one-way street right next to it, Harrison Boulevard, something like that. Maybe Folsom, I can't remember. But Folsom has a Costco, has a 6-lane freeway on both sides, both corners. You know, it's East Bidwell and it's the other one that goes up the hill there. Roseville has a Costco and it's got 6 lanes of traffic next to it. You know, even the Sunrise Costco has 6 lanes of traffic on Sunrise going to that one. We've got 2 lanes on both sides. This does not seem like an ideal Costco location. It's a parking nightmare. You have you wanted to go north, then you go south. Now we're going to build a freight elevator designed San Francisco, where I used to go, Costco, to fit it in there. You see all those trees there? Oh, wow, it looks nice in trees. Well, have you looked at the Costco at Folsom? There's trees there too. You don't see those trees. They're tiny little trees. It's not going to look like that. The main parking lot right in front of the Costco, no trees, none. Hot, gets hot here. I'm not looking forward to going to that Costco, even though it's right down my street. And so that's one aspect of it. I don't think this is a good location for a Costco. I like Costco, but not this location. I was thinking more smaller type stuff. Why is Costco proposing smaller type stuff on the north side? Why are you even involved with that? Why don't you just leave that blank and let that develop later? A storage facility there for all these big, huge homes, looking down on that, that was never a thought in my mind when I bought that house that there would be a storage facility. I don't understand why Costco is trying to develop an idea for the north side. That's clueless to me. And also, I like to get the Costco gas. And so I thought, you know, well, shoot, if I get gas, it'll be right down the side from my house, and they close at 9 o'clock. Oh, shoot, now we're going to put a retail gas station there that'll probably be 24-hour. So I'm a little bit against some of these plans that you have. The other thing I wanted to point out is the loading zone, really close to the freeway, great. But the headlights of those trucks, when they're coming all through the night, are they all going to be shining in the direction of all the homes, those $1 million beautiful homes where we wanted that east-facing view at night? And so that's my complaint, really. And so, you know, I love my area where I live. I'm a small business owner in El Dorado Hills. I don't want to move. I'm investing in my home. And this is not the plan that I was hoping for that area. And I hope that the planning committee stops this. I hope the supervisors stop this. But when it comes down to it, no, the gentleman up there goes, can we vote on this? And no, we don't vote on it. It's the committee. And when they are saying, oh, you know, the environmental people will do their job and the planning people will do their job. Well, I think you guys are smart enough to know what's going to be approved, because you wouldn't be spending all this time wanting to go here if you didn't already know that stuff was going to get approved. So gas stations right next to a school, obviously not a problem up there by the Safeway. So I just would like to see changes made. And I'm questioning, I guess I'd like you to address why are you wanting to develop this north side? I don't understand. Just do your Costco part, but why the north side? It seems like a distraction to me. I don't know.
So I can answer that. So the property is owned by EDH52. Costco has come forth for the south side. So they are not involved in the northern side. That is still the property owner. And they have marketed around and feel that when Costco would come, other users will now follow. You usually can't sustain a shopping center just with shop buildings. You need the bigger user to draw in the traffic. And so they are doing a project as a whole, you know, the environmental impact report will look as a whole rather than bifurcating it. And then EDH52 would develop the north side or sell it to people who would develop the north side separate from the Costco. So they don't have to be developed at the same time. We're just getting the planning approval at the same time.
So what's the
I wanted to follow up as well, some of the items that you mentioned. The parking lot area in front of the Costco will be concrete, so it won't be blacktop. That does quite a bit reduce the amount of heat gain from a parking lot area when it's concrete and has that light gray color to it. We are looking at ways to incorporate some type of landscaping in the area, whether it be planters or some type of scenario, but we're still looking at that for different options. As far as the headlights shining, you know, the dock well is at grade with the parking lot. And you do have trees there in front that are going to be blocking that. Now, I know you mentioned the Folsom site and the lack of landscaping or the maturity of the trees there potentially. I don't recall off the top of my head the species of trees we planted there, but small species. That was over a decade ago. So we've come a long ways from then with our, again, to speak to our sustainability efforts and other things of that nature to better the landscaping. Plus they have more tree shade requirements. It's actually a requirement for the canopy to get a certain size by a certain time. That wasn't in place when Folsom was constructed. And so it would be different landscaping.
So, okay, right here, and then. Good.
So I'm just trying to understand a couple of things. One, I have three things I'm trying to understand. Where it says Colorado Hill North, Country Club Drive, somehow going to come down from that road. It's going to turn and go behind that whole project. It's going to be 4 lanes wide, like 160 feet wide there, and with a median, and come all the way around this project and all the way down to the traffic in the lower left side. That's a major roadway, but it's not going to be built at the same time the center is going to be built. Is that what I'm hearing? So it's not part of this EIR?
No, so the Country Club Drive extension is supposed to be a parallel capacity for Highway 50. So we don't believe our project is what's going to trigger it, though the traffic analysis will look at that. If we do generate enough, trips, maybe we would, but in our our own internal analysis, we did not trigger it.
So are you leaving easement then all the way behind this project, 200 foot wide, or a future?
It's about 100 feet wide for 4 lanes. You're correct. It will have curb, gutter, sidewalk.
All the way past the school too. It's going to end up where the school is, right?
You can see where the property line is. So we don't own that little triangle piece, but yes, so part of the tentative map allows you to subdivide and create additional parcels. We will create a parcel that would then be dedicated to the county to then build it when they need to.
Because of that, where it says Colorado Hills 52 52 north and Rusi Ranch comes down, okay, off of Serrano. So because there's going to be an easement there, is that not going to go through into your center and out to the traffic light concurrently with this being built either?
So the
Is that
only,
gate opening out of Serrano?
so the only portion of Country Club Drive will be up to that secondary access arrow to get us access to the site. We're actually lower than the rest of Country Club Drive. It's more in line with the homes.
You lost me. You have to show me exactly on that map what you're talking about. But I don't think the folks that really understand there's a 100-foot wide roadway going around this project. In front of the house, right now.
So, yeah, so there is the Country Club Drive extension wraps around the EDH 52 and then heads south and then eventually connects.
Could you lower that map?
Yes, there is a gate.
Lower it.
Oops, that's.
So, and again, it's a county project, so we're not designing the roadway. I don't know if,
You can say it's a county project, but come on.
I don't know if
It's right
they,
next to yours, so now between commercial and residential, the county requires a block wall, it's in this Serrano plan. But you're not mentioning any commercial block wall that would follow along.
I believe you, there already is a screen wall at the back of these homes. No. There's not, okay.
The third bone is on the record saying that wall, that Serrano, typical Serrano wall will follow all those homes, but I don't see it in this project, so.
Well, because we're not building the roadway. We are internal to it, but I was not aware. I would have assumed there was a wall, so that's my mistake.
Headwaters of Carson Creek, there's a creek that runs from the school across your property, right about where your marker was, right there. What happens to that creekway right there? Right through the project, you just kind of bulldoze it, close.
We will get a Army Corps permit to fill those wetlands.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. We're gonna get a 100-foot wide, four-lane road with a median all the way around it.
Not with this project.
Coming down parallel 50 from Bass Lake. Brucey Ranch is gonna open up partly with this project. And that big road's gonna open up by the school. And that creek's gonna be bulldozed out too. The headwaters to Carson Creek right there. You're gonna get a.
We will get a permit to fill those wetlands.
Thank you.
So, and we got one more over here in the back. Hey, Tim, hold on. We're gonna do this one back here.
Yeah, bring some things. I will. A couple more things here. I think as we learn these, as we listen through these two presentations here, also from the family up on Bass Lake Road, it seems like they have major plans for the growth in that particular area, also with housing. My suggestion tonight is, after hearing everybody's talking here, I think maybe the family should exchange phone numbers with Mr. Costco here. Because there's maybe something to obtain. Maybe you have a new tenant here in the room for you that they want to build up. Number two, that's a little inside joke, but thank you for the applause and the support. Number two, my wife and I, we are big executive members with Costco. We both get a gas at Costco. So are we going to be driving for the lesser expensive gas to Folsom to come back to El Dorado Hills again and vice versa? If I'm Folsom, I might as well go shop there too, right?
Yeah, the elimination of the gas station was based on feedback we got at this meeting.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, of course, I knew that already. That's why the question came. Yeah. Well, how did you feel about the? Oh.
Hey, Tim, we got about 2 minutes
I would
left.
think
We got
El Dorado
a bunch of
would
people online. I
like
need to
the
get
tax
two more in
revenue.
here. So let me grab this real quick. Let me get you here and we'll see how far we can get, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, next in line would have been John Skaggs. Can you go ahead and unmute and we'll listen to you real quick? John, can you hear us? It's not. Okay, we're not getting John, so the other one we have on here would be Laura Batain. Laura, can you unmute?
Yes, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just want to say my name's Laura Patani, and I just wanted to get my support out to the comments pertaining to the school by Amy Frith and Heather Seifkes. This development would absolutely require more parking for the school. I did drop-offs this morning with young children, and I will say there was a huge line down Silva Valley. People were jumping out of their cars. Mothers were jumping out of their cars with crying children because they were late to the first day of school and running across Silva Valley Parkway. It was not safe in any way, shape, or form already. And just to make this a huge point, if there was any more traffic on that freeway, we would be having a child run over at some point. It definitely needs to be mitigated. Traffic is a huge problem with school drop-offs and pickups, and it's only getting worse. So I just want to make sure that that point is really, really out there. And I would like to end this with an invite. Please come to the Costco site tomorrow at 7:45, where Costco is being developed, and just watch this drop off at 7:55 tomorrow morning. You can be there. You can witness it. Don't be in the mess of it, but go ahead and park where this Costco is being proposed and see what is happening, what is going on in that site at 7:55 every morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so guys, we're over time on the room now, and I don't feel like writing a check personally.
Wait a minute, the public came out to this meeting, let them ask their.
I understand, but you know what? I have a responsibility to the fire department who's offered this to me, right? They're not obligated to do so. If we, we're already at 9 o'clock, and you know, I don't have a meeting space that I can offer.
Two things. One, the lights went off normally at this hour. We're getting the lights back on, so we safely leave. Second, September 8th, as Costco told us, there's going to be a scoping meeting for the EDH.
Are you mic'd so the Zoomers can hear you? Are you mic'd?
Oh, no, you are.
Oh. All right, so basically, the next public meeting on this is September 8th, so less than a month away. That's a scoping meeting. The scoping meeting is put on by the planning department. They will be sending out notices when they do the NOP, which is going to go to everyone within 1 mile, but it's also going to be on our website. As soon as we get a copy of it, we'll post it. It might be at the Oakview Meadow. I don't know where they're going to have it. It could be at the school. It could be somewhere else, but it'll be in a big enough event. That's when you have the planning department, Dina Hamilton, who is the project manager for the county on this. She will be there. You're likely to get Tiffany Schmidt, the head of planning, there. You're going to get people from the Department of Transportation to be there. Costco and EDH52, you're both going to be there as well. They will bring things like this, but they'll have big poster boards that you can look at. You'll be able to talk to everyone. You'll probably get 1 or 2 of our planning commissioners are there. Our supervisor typically attends these type meetings as well because he wants to hear what you have to say. This is when you're going to have a chance to go one-on-one with them. Those scoping meetings typically go, or for 3 or 4 hours. You come in between 4 and 8 or 6 and 9 or whatever the time frame is, so you can make your schedule. That's the next time the public will have a good chance, and you'll be talking to people who are really the decision makers. The planning commissioners, the planning department. So those are the people that they need to hear from you. So we do have a time frame here, and I know that there's a lot of questions. They will be answered. Every question that comes up will be answered. So
with that, I want to appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I understand there's a 1,000 more questions. There's no way we're going to get through them all tonight. I apologize for the people online that we had the challenge earlier, but I appreciate everybody coming out. You coming out is important. The applicants want to hear this. Our supervisor wants to hear this. The meeting's recorded. I know our planning commissioners will listen to it. There's a sign-up list in the back room if you want to get our emails. If you want to be made aware of the scoping meeting when it happens, you can look at our website. You can look at our social media. Our website's edhapac.org. And, we have an open invitation when you guys need to come back. We would love to have you here. So thank you, everyone.